Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with a super fun and a little bit of a different video, and that is that I'm going to be organizing or creating a new space for all of my crafty little things. I think I got a request somewhere and I don't remember where, but somebody wanted to see how I kind of organize all of my crafty supplies. So that's why I made this video. So I hope other people will also enjoy it. You may have already seen from the background behind me that it's currently finished, and this is the new little space that I created. I used to have a different shelving unit here with big drawers, and it was big and green and just really clunky, and it didn't suit the space at all. And now I have a bigger shelf in return. Then the space that I'm also currently selling is a little bit strange because it's right next door to the entrance where we enter our home, and then this is the place where we enter the roof terrace. So it's a little bit cranked for me, but I do hope that this is a nice space to sit in front and film. If you like it, please do let me know in the comments, and then maybe I will also film some podcast here. And that's all that I have to say, so let's just get started. So to start off this video, this is what I have stacked on top of the shelves. So this is just a little basket that I basically keep all of my hand knitted little scarves and things. Then I do have some sock yarn next to it, and then behind it is actually a pan because the thing above it leaks water. So I try to cover that up with this. And then this one actually has all of my scrap fabrics, which is huge right now. So I really need to find the time to make a quilt because this currently is just ever growing and it's really not going anywhere. And then in the first compartment I have some yarn as always. I like to store my yarn with my books, even though I only started reading like a few months ago. And then here I have all of my blue books. Most of them I have not read yet. And then this is a yarn that I'm planning to knit an Augustine shawl with that I still just haven't found the time for yet, but it's really nice. So I just keep that there to inspire me. And then the one next to it, I will bring you a bit closer. And then this one is kind of my aesthetics shelf is how I would call it, because it has my enormous amount of hair accessories that is really not necessary, but I just have a lot. So this one has all of the small little clips that I use for my hair, like these ones, but also like pearly clips. And then this one is a really cute little thrifted thing that I also have some jewelry in. I think most of these are earrings. Then over here we have a lot of headbands, then a crochet cover, some sunglasses and face mask. Really boring. Then I have my makeup and then my scrunchies inside a Ziploc bag. Very, very beautiful to look at. And then here I have all of my bigger hair clips, which is also a crazy amount. Just like these types of clips. Then we have arrived at the shelf underneath that. And I have some more yarns. These are mostly honestly yarns that I don't really know what to do with yet. They are all sock yarns except for that one. This is the... I will show you a bit more in detail. But so first of all we have this little sock yarn from Hedgehog Fibers. Then I have this little one that I don't remember where it's from, but it's from some Dutch indie dyer and it's also sock yarn. And then we have this one from Life in the Long Grass, which I think is also one of my favorite hand dyers. I think they're based in somewhere in the UK, I'm not sure, but it's very beautiful. And then, as you can see here, I have all of my yellow and pink books, which also most of them I have not read, some of them I have. And I have so many books, in case you're wondering, because I get them on Vinted for really cheap prices, and then I get multiple when I find like a seller that has multiple books that I like. So that's why I've gathered so many of them, just so you know. So then I like to put the yarn in front of it. So that's that one. And then this is the last little open shelf with some red books and also some black books. But I found that most of the black books are fantasy. I'm not sure why that is. And then I have some more hand-dyed yarn. These are actually all skeins that I dyed myself, which is really cool. Then this is something that I'm still yet deciding what to do with that. And a candle. And that's all. And then I guess underneath comes the fun part, because this is where I'm currently storing all of my yarn, which is kind of a crazy amount. 2 bins full. Yeah, it's kind of difficult to see what's underneath all of it, but let's just say that I have a lot of yarn here. I kept all of the fluffy yarns on top, so there's also other fluffy yarn there and some hand-dyed yarn again. Most of these have a plan, but some of them I don't really have a plan for, but you know, as a knitter it's always nice to have some yarn on hand, even though for my last 2 designs I bought yarn, which I shouldn't do. Yeah, that's where I keep all of my yarn. And I forgot to say that actually I did a very big like de-stash recently, so I think 2 bins is quite reasonable. And then here I have all of my sewing supplies, which is also a little bit messy, but still I know where everything is, so it's a lot better I think than it used to be. And then here I have office supplies, which everyone needs. So yeah, just like bills that I have to keep, and cords, cables, camera supplies. I have a lot of stuff for my business, of course. And then this spot you may recognize, because this is where I usually film, and actually right next to it, like here is my fridge, and then there is already my living room because my house is so small. But this is where I used to store all of my yarn. Then when I started reading, I started to store yarn and books here. And now, as you can see, I'm storing some of my hand knitted sweaters, which I think is really exciting. I could show you all of them if you want me to, like right now. We have the Celeste sweater by Petite Knit, then we have the Juicia sweater by Vert and Rose, Stripe Hype sweater, Kutova Kika. This is an original design that I don't think I'm going to be writing a patent for. And then we have the Earth Pullover by Ozetta. Also, all of this stuff is going to be donated, so we can just ignore that. Then we have my Cholula texture cardigan that is currently in test knitting, Sweet Sierra sweater, then my new design that is also going to be test knitted very soon, Vilma top by Gregoria Fibers, Vivian Vintage cardigan, 2 samples of them. And then actually when you turn around from this space, I have more space for crafty things. So this is actually where that shelf is that I just talked about, and this is where you enter our house, and then this is actually our closet that we share. And then on top of the closet, as you can see here, I have all of my threads, my printer for patterns, and then these 2 bins is where I keep most of my fabric. Okay, we have arrived. So here I have some swatches. Most of these are really old and a little bit random, but I think they look cute there. And another little crochet swatch. Then this little pom-pom garland that I think I made last year during Christmas, or Craftmas as I called it. Then I'm trying to grow this little plant. It has already grown quite a bit since I've gotten it. And just some things that I use for camera supplies. And then here some sewing supplies. So of course measuring tapes, clips. And then here I have these little labels, but I never really put them in anything because they are a little bit itchy. But I do have them, and it's a nice memory from my brands. And then we have my desk, which this should not be here right now. Let me just put that away. So we have my laptop, of course, headphones, and then all of the other supplies that you need, like little scissors and pens. And then this is the start of a crochet blanket that I then never finished. So now it's here. This is its home, and I think it looks cute. It's a little bit of a, you know, a handmade touch. And then I also have some drawers in my desk that I keep a lot of the sewing supplies that I really need to have on hand, and also knitting supplies. So I have my knitting needle case, stitch markers and all of that thing. And then of course you need a hand cream if you're always working with your hands. It's very important. So this is one of my favorites. And then in this one, like I said, all of my sewing supplies, you know, like little pins, rotary cotton. I have multiple of those. Fray check. Yeah, it's a bit of a mess. I try to keep it organized by using all of these little bins in there, but it's still a little bit of an unorganized mess, and I think that's how it's always gonna be. So, you know, I do my best, but this is how it is. Just before I'm going to end this video, I did receive a few questions over on my Instagram that apply to organization, so I thought I would answer them in this video instead of answering them in my next knitting podcast, where I will do a knit and chat with questions at the end. So if you do have any questions for me, please do leave them down below and I will answer them in my next knitting podcast. And for now, let's just see what those questions were. So one person asked, how do you organize scraps and scrap projects? I think you already saw a little bit how I organize, for example, my scrap fabrics. I just throw them all in one big bin, basically. And then for the really small scrap fabrics, I like to put them in a Ziploc bag together. And then maybe one day I will use them as filling or make a really scrappy project. And then for yarn, I kind of do the same. I've been putting all of my mohair scraps together in hopes that one day I will be able to put them into one garment. And then all of the other scraps are currently going into my sweet shop blanket. And then I always organize a lot of my projects that are works in progress. I organize them in those little plastic crates. So that's also where I put those scrap yarns. And then that same person asked me, how do you store yarn and fabric to avoid pests like moths? I actually don't really do anything to avoid them. To be honest, I have seen moths around the house, but I don't feel like they are attacking my yarn or my knitting, which I know probably sounds very illegitimate, but that's just what I feel like. So I do have my sweaters all exposed, like they are not in bins, so like insects can get to them if they would want to. And then I do keep my fabrics in bins, but that's more so because we don't have a lot of storage in our tiny studio apartment. And then currently also my fabric or my yarn is also in bins, but those bins are not closed up as you were able to see. So I don't really do anything particular to avoid that. But if you did, then I would suggest keeping things in bins so they are less likely to be able to go inside there, you know? And then I also received some comments about people wanting to see some organization tips. So I do have a few little tips that I do. I don't have anything that's like groundbreaking, but I thought I would just share that with you now. So for example, one thing that I like to do, like I said, is just use Ziploc bags. So this is, for example, a Ziploc bag with all of the little trims that I have. Not like the lacy trims, but like the bigger ones. So these are more for bag making, like the little cords and stuff. And I think that just really helps with organizing things, that you're not throwing everything together. And then another thing that you can use and that I really like to have are these little plastic bins. So this is, for example, one of my favorites, where they have 5 different compartments. So this is, for example, with belt buckles, then the flowers and bra clips. And then I do the same actually for buttons. And I see a lot of people just throwing all of their buttons inside one giant container, but I just think that's counterproductive. You want to be able to see what you have. And even if you don't have a lot of the same buttons, I kind of organize them like that anyway. So I will have certain colors together, certain things that I have in common, like for example tortoiseshell buttons or the little pearlescent buttons, keep those together, and I think that really helps. And then a final thing that I like to have is I always have this little tiny wooden box that I painted pink next to me, where I always knit on the sofa. And here I just keep all of the little bits and bobs that you need. And it's just really nice to have that in one place that you can just close, so it doesn't really look messy. But here you can see a little bit of what's inside. But I just have little stitch holders that you might need, little scissors like this. Of course, a lot of stitch markers are also in here, and then also needle stoppers. That's what this is called. Yeah, a bunch of little needle stoppers. And then if you want to keep all of your stitch markers nicely organized, I recommend putting them all together. So for example, if you have one of these bigger stitch marker rings like this, then taking all of your removable stitch markers and just attaching them and then repeating that, and then you have them all together so they're not just like laying around. I also really like doing that. And if you don't have a lot of removable stitch markers, you could obviously do it the opposite way. So for example, sometimes you have those earrings that are really easy to open, and then just putting all of your regular stitch markers on there. And I really like to do that. So that's just a little tip for me. I don't know if it's really useful for anyone, but yeah, that's just a little extra portion of this video. I think that was it for this video. I do hope that you enjoyed seeing just a little bit of a peek of how I store my yarn, my books, my sewing supplies and all of that stuff. I know it was a little bit of a different video than I usually would. It's probably really short as well, but I'm also going on a holiday right now. So I just wanted to do a little easy quick video for you. So I hope you don't mind, and I will see you after my holiday with a knitting podcast, which I think is going to be a really exciting one, because I for sure will have one finished object, and then hopefully I will have a colorwork cardigan finish that is going to be my own design. I'm super excited about that, so I would love to show you then. And for now, I wish you all a very happy day, happy knitting, and see you then. Bye bye!